Hello and welcome back to the Be Free podcast. It is January 2025, and I am kicking off this year with a really awesome conversation with my beautiful friend, Susan Findlay. Hello, Susan.
Aloha. So good to be here. Thanks for having me back.
No, I'm so delighted because I think we have these conversations and chats offline like multiple times a week, probably. I was going to say at least once a week, but we have all these great conversations and chats about all the things. And I think it's a really great conversation to kick off the year. We're going to be speaking about the healing journey today. And I know it's something that you might be looking to explore in 2025. And yeah, we just thought it'd be great to have a conversation about it. So, Susan and I, for those of you who don't know, we actually have a business together called Soul Sanctuary. We've known each other for about 5 years, I think now, 4 or 5 years
Is it?
maybe.
Wow. Can I just
Um,
say, isn't it great to have a relationship like this where you have somebody who you can talk all the things about, talk about things that you can't talk about with your pals, like healing and growth and personal development and spirituality. It's so great to have that friendship with you that we can have these conversations.
Absolutely. And I think the really cool thing is Susan and I've been friends for that time. We've obviously started Soul Sanctuary together as well. Um, but we've only met each other about 3 times in person.
Yeah, we are virtual friends.
It's like we really do exist and we have met each other those times. But yeah, I think it's really powerful that you can make these connections in an online space. And I actually met Susan through a group mentoring program that both of us were going through for business. And then we stayed friends ever since. But I'll let you do your official intro and don't leave anything out because you're quite self-depreciating and she's a legend. So introduce yourself, Suze.
It's funny you should say I'm self-deprecating because the last call I had with my coach in December, I can't remember what my intention was, but she was like, I just feel like you need to just start loving yourself a bit more. And I was like, am I back here? Because this was a big piece of work that I did that was a big part of my healing journey back. And I don't even know now, 2015, something like that. And it was like, how have I got back here? And it's because as life evolves, behind us, we as a person actually need to move and shift with, our lives, don't we? And so I'm really in this um identity change phase, which actually was where I was at the last time we did a podcast. So anyway, a little ramble there about that self-deprecating self. I am very hard on myself. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Susan Findlay. And I always find it hard to put a badge on what I do, but effectively, I really work with women mainly to help them break free from emotional suffering, from the mental chaos in their head, and from really low self doubt and self worth. Hello, guiding them back to a place of deep acceptance of themselves, their lives, and really fully accepting themselves as they are. I'm trained in multiple modalities, so I'm a life coach, trained in hypnotherapy, NLP, positive psychology coaching, manifestation, and compassionate inquiry, which is just like, oh my God, the most incredible modality that I've ever trained in, which is Gabor Mate's approach. So Gabor Mate is, I guess, seen as the global leader in childhood developmental trauma, and that's really informed my work. I'm working with people who don't realize that they have experienced adverse childhoods or traumatic experiences in their childhoods. They just know that they feel depressed, stuck, anxious, and they don't know why. So it's always interesting talking about healing, which is what we're here to discuss, because a lot of the women that I work with don't even know what healing is, don't even relate to the word healing because it's not something that's in their radar because most people don't even realize that the cause of their issue is rooted in the past, is rooted in their childhood experiences, and it is that stuckness and attachment to the past that is keeping them experiencing the sadness, the depression, the anxiety in the present. So I have lots of different spaces and places for women mainly to come and fully be themselves. I host women's circles. I have a group program called Heal Yourself Whole, which launches on the 29th of January. And it really is my signature group program, which has taken all of the learnings, trainings, embodiment practices that I have done with myself and with my clients and put it into a group program. And I don't know about you, Susie, but as I've navigated both developing myself as a coach and as a healer, but also the work that I take clients through and my own personal therapy, I like to know what's happening. And when you're in one-to-one therapy, you never really understand what's going on. When I started diving into my shadow, diving into my unconscious material, working with my inner child, I was like, what's actually going on here? Because it was really new to me.
Hmm.
So in Heal Yourself Whole, I feel like given that knowledge really helps people understand and get on board more. Ah, right, I see what we're doing and now I get it. So I've really created and built out this course the way that I like to learn and the way that I like to work through things. It's like the knowledge, the tools, and the community to support. So
Yeah.
that is ultimately what I do. We obviously do Soul Sanctuary together, which is the most incredible spiritual membership for you to dial into your spiritual practices, build your foundations for your mental and emotional health. And I'm sure we'll go on to that a bit more, but Soul Sanctuary is open now for enrollment until the 12th of January. And we're doing a
Mhm.
21-day manifestation challenge inside there, which is very exciting.
Amazing. So yeah, well done for shading and shining. And obviously, like, both of us are very much into self-development and healing. And like, in your opinion, why do you think that that's important for people to actually do that?
So, healing for me is really about getting unstuck because when we're stuck in repetitive cycles, repetitive patterns, whether that be emotional patterns of anxiety, like feeling real anxious bouts and then getting over it and thinking, okay, I'm good again, and then the cycle repeats, or depressive states where I've seen this time and time again, feeling good, coming off antidepressants, not me, but I see it in clients, and then going back to how it was. And it really is like you're stuck in this perpetual loop of behaviors, thought processes, feelings. And when you go on this healing journey, you take yourself out of that loop, you get unstuck. And really, it's about being present to what is happening in the present moment so that you can manage and deal with what is happening and remove yourself from the stuckness, from the behavior, from the emotion, from the thought process. So I think that it's so important to get yourself out of the stuckness, which in turn supports how you feel, which in turn supports your thought processes. So, really, that is what healing is for me. It's about getting yourself out of those thoughts, feelings, belief states that keep us stuck in desperate states.
Mhm. And from your own personal experience and your own healing journey, what's been kind of the main lessons, like specific examples of lessons you would say that you've learned through your own healing journey?
So I guess like my own healing journey was really all around drinking, alcohol, and absolutely hating myself. Like I would go, my cycle was getting drunk, staying out late, acting in ways, saying things that I didn't like. And so the following, so sober Susan hated drunk Susan. And I used to think I was the worst person in the world when I was drunk. And I wasn't. I was maybe loud and I was maybe a bit boisterous, but I never did anything bad. I never got in a fight. I never, you know, hurt anybody or anything like that. But I just really hated myself. So I was stuck in this cycle of getting drunk, despising, shame, despair, feeling okay again, getting drunk. And it went on like that for years. So I really had to go on a journey of self-love. Like that was my thing. I didn't think I was worthy, and that belief of not being worthy shows up for me all the time. But I get into relationship with that belief. I understand it. I know where it comes from now. And so I can be with a belief of not feeling good enough and actually move myself through it because I've done the work to get to the root cause and understand where it came from. Um, but it never ceases to amaze me because you grow and evolve and then something else reveals itself. So
Yeah.
last week, for example, and I did a post about this, so you may have seen it, but I posted in my best friend's group chat a comment that I made. And the comment was supposed to be funny, but it was judgmental. And so my friends were laughing about something I had said. And it was really just a flippant comment. And it was also all just light-hearted, good fun. But the following day, I was so embarrassed about it. I felt shame. I thought everybody would be talking about me. I was like, why did this happen? I've worked so hard on my judgment.
Mhm.
And I just got really curious with it. I was really present to what was happening and I got really curious. So I started asking myself questions. I went into my journal, and the more I started connecting with what was happening and the feelings in my body started to come up. So I went into my body and started asking questions of my body. And I was really able to connect with shame.
Mhm.
And so I sat with the feelings in my body, and then a memory popped up. A memory popped up of being young. So I had really bright ginger hair when I was younger. And everybody always had a comment on my hair, whether it was good or bad. Your hair's beautiful. I had freckles. Um, and I got teased about it, but I can't remember being teased about it. But when I was sitting really present to what was coming up in my body, I did. And so there was all this shame around it. And what I wrote in my journal was I walked around with this shame on my head
Mhm.
because I obviously couldn't get away from it. And I was like, holy shit, like I've never seen this before. And I've never felt this before because my conscious mind or my adult self always thinks I'm so lucky that I never got teased for my red hair when I was younger, but I actually did. And I'd obviously repressed that because it was too painful for me to feel. And like, obviously, when I maybe took it to my parents, they'd be say, oh, never mind them. So they would really discount my feelings.
Yeah.
And obviously, not intentionally, that's just parents are trying to be helpful. But I was like, oh my God. So I really sat with this shame. And shame was the thing that kept me in that loop when I was drunk
Mhm.
or when I was so when I was over
Yeah.
my drunken state and the hangover the following day. And so this is really the things that keep surfacing for me. It's like shame is a big thing, but I had no idea where it was coming from. And there I'm carrying unprocessed shame because I got teased when I was a child. Like that is so sad, isn't it? That is some of the things that are really keeping us stuck in the present. And I sat with my inner child for a wee while and I cried because I was like, I'm actually getting emotional talking about it now because she had to endure all that teasing at such a young age. And I had pushed that away. So
Mhm.
that is, I can't believe that that's touching me. That is proof that there's still work there for me to do because it is bringing up emotions in me. Just that sadness for that little girl who experienced that.
Mhm.
And, like working deeply with the subconscious is where all this shadow aspects of herself is stuck and it's stored. And, um, I've navigated a lot of frustration this year and anger, which I've never experienced before. But through really tracking and being present to those sensations, again, I've been able to get underneath where this anger is coming from. So you're really working with my triggers to understand what's underneath it. And it's always a hurt child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just take a breath
So
here.
powerful.
Oh,
So powerful. And
I
thank you,
know.
yeah, for being vulnerable and raw there and for people being able to witness that because as you say, there's, and I think this is where you are so skilled in working with the subconscious with clients. To dig deep into those things. And I know I've been doing my own healing work this year, and again, a lot of that has been subconscious based in and around the balance condition that I'd been facing for the past two
Oh,
years. And I messaged you one day, kind of laughing, like,
yeah.
Yeah, no surprise to you, Susan, that these questions that I am like exploring are from childhood. And yeah, I think it's really fascinating. And even not just childhood, but without going too cosmic for people, but past life stuff as well. And
Yeah.
like I can't remember, like remember you took me through a journey. Was it not a past life? It was something
It was
came up,
probably
and then you were like, "Are you sure you want to go there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just keep going." I can't even remember what it was now.
It was probably a timeline technique that asks if this belief is rooted in the past, present, or a different life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really powerful technique for changing
Yeah.
beliefs. That's actually in the Heal program, that
Uh-huh.
timeline technique. I just wanted to touch on the subconscious because I think it's so important for the healing journey because people don't realize that how we are showing up and operating in our lives from our consciousness is only 5%. The subconscious is 95% running our show, our life. So that means that all of your past experiences, particularly from childhood, because the subconscious mind has been formed up to the age of 7, 8, and that is when you're programmed. So if you think that your programming began and was imprinted into your unconscious up to the age of 7.
Mhm.
And that is how we're operating is from that early conditioning. Often I heard somebody say once, I was like, that is so true. Like our politicians are just a bunch of 7-year-old kids running around making
Yeah.
decisions because they're all coming from those traumatic experiences. And the subconscious mind is almost like if I always think about it like a computer or your phone, right? The subconscious is like your operating system. Think about your iPhone, all the stuff that's in the back end that you don't even have to worry about or think about. And the conscious mind is the user interface that you see. It's only like 5% of the full
Hmm.
piece of tech, piece of kit. And it's going into the unconscious where we can create the deepest, meaningful, and most impactful change because that is where our programming lies. It's like if you've ever tried to do a diet and so we try and we fail because underneath the surface, our beliefs don't match up with the conscious efforts that we're trying to make. Beliefs are in the unconscious.
Hmm.
And so that is why the work needs to happen in our subconscious because that is where the change really takes shape.
Hmm. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so just kind of like off the top of your head, just thinking about the clients you've worked with, recently, what would you say are kind of like the main things that people are facing right now?
So
Is there any themes or is it all very, very individualized?
there is themes, and the biggest theme is a mother wound.
Mm.
And so, like when I was starting out, I trained as a coach and hypnotherapy and NLP. And I had no idea really what I was doing. And I was naturally attracting women who were struggling with their mental health. And um, I, as I started to do more training, I trained in positive psychology. I spent 2 years working with Gabor Mate, and I did that because I thought I need to be able to hold these kind of spaces where I'm taking people at a deep level. So what I realize in retrospect is that I was already intuitively doing a lot of this work. I
Mhm.
was already holding um, a lot of space for people and safe space for people. And the mother wound is the biggest thing that people come to me with.
Mhm.
I think I kind of digressed there a little bit, so I'll just come back on track. But the mother wound is the thing, right? Now, when I was in a ceremony of my own, so I wasn't holding it, I was a participant, I received this guidance that I am here. So I've never had any kids, and I've never actually related to being a mother, but as I've done the healing work, it's come up more and more where actually I probably repressed that part of myself because I was single, didn't have a partner. So I think I pushed away that wanting to have kids, wanting to be a mother. And it's only now as I've done all this healing work, I think probably a couple of years ago, I was like, actually, I think I'm ready to be a mum, but I was in menopause. It was too late. Um, but I've done a bit of work recently on that not having children because I do feel like it was repressed. So I received this guidance that I didn't have kids because I'm here to be mother to those who had traumatic experiences with their mother.
Mhm.
And I was quite rejecting of that too. I was like, no, I can't do that. That's not a role that I can take on. But again, in retrospect, it's the role that I have taken on at a relational level because I've worked with people recently. I'm gonna share like an example with a client I've worked with recently, and she has given me permission to share her story as long as I don't say her name. But she had a mother who was emotionally abusive to her and who had a lot of shame inside of her at the hands of her mother. And she experienced this as a child. Mum was really quite horrible to her. She had a sister who didn't receive that treatment. And so she observed her sister being treated differently to her. And so when we go into a relational container together, so when she comes to me for one-to-one help, creating that safe space where she can get vulnerable, where she can access some of that old
Mhm.
emotional wounding, those unmet needs, and really seeing the limiting beliefs that she had, then that is ultimately what a mother does for a child. A mother holds a child when they feel emotional pain. A mother meets the needs of a child and these are the core wounds that women face. And so I now feel like I'm really ready to own that. I don't want to say being mother, it's not that. It's almost like an archetype, it's like an energy.
Mhm.
And so I am able to be that empathetic, abiding witness to clients as they navigate exploring their own experiences of childhood. And like these women come to me. This woman who I'm talking about came to me because she hated herself, she hated her body, she wanted to lose weight. And I said to her, okay, sure, I'll help you with that. But we first have to understand what's underneath you hating your body, what's underneath this desire to lose weight and you're not losing weight because it's often a mother wound.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you this story about her because it's an incredible story. So she came to me and she was hunched over and she was full of shame. And she even spoke like a little girl. She had her head, I know you can't see this, but she had her head and her shoulders bowed down and she spoke really quietly. And she was quite tall, she was really tall and had presence, but um she had so much shame inside of her. So she did my 10-week program. And a lot of it was um stored emotions, but also stored um energy. So sensations, like she was almost hunched over like this. She could not move her arms. She couldn't open herself up. So a lot of the work that we did was really body based to allow her to move this trapped energy out of her system so that she could open up. And there was a point at the end where she just had her arms open and said, I just feel like I've released, and you could feel it. It was palpable.
Mhm.
So she then went into my heal program and she then had all the tools and the knowledge that helped her understand all the work that we had done one to one. And that was in October last year. We did the one to one work. She came into my heal program in January and then she messaged me out of the blue in October and said, I'm ready to forgive my mother, but I just can't quite get there. Could you help me? I was like, of course. So she came up for a single session and it was one of the most powerful things that I've ever experienced because I work with the body, right? I work with somatics, which is repressed emotions and sensations that are stuck in our body. And she kept saying, feel like I just need to make the jump. I need to make the jump. And she kept making this forward motion with her hands as well. And that is a somatic thing. So I could see that. So we were in the body and there was all this trappedness and she was stuck and she was like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I said to her, do you want to stand up? Let's stand up. So I cleared the space so that she could stand up. I said, could you physically jump? She was like, yeah, that's what I feel like I need to do. But she was standing there like she was on the edge of a cliff trying to jump. She couldn't do it. And I said, would you like me to do it with you? And she was like, yeah, please. So I stood up beside her and she took my hand and I said, whenever you're ready. And she was like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And the two of us jumped. And she just collapsed back in the seat. Like she said, oh my God, I just feel like all of this stuff has just lifted off me. And I was just in awe because that is how the body works. It's like it needs to make that final step, it needs to close the loop, and it needs to um, process out of the nervous system the response that never finished.
Mhm.
And it was just incredible. And so that was almost like a completion for her. And she had the trust in me to follow the leads that I was getting cues from her body, from my intuition to stand up to. It was daft if you could have seen us doing it. It was like two kids holding hands jumping over an imaginary fence.
Mhm.
But I met her a week ago in M&S, and she said to me, Susan, I have been going to write you this email for so long, but I keep adding things to it. She's like, I am like a different person.
Mhm.
She's even her voice was different, the way she was standing was different. She said, I used to hate myself. She said, now I actually like what I see in the mirror. She said, I used to be so controlling over food, and now I don't care. I just eat what I want, but I don't eat as much
Mhm.
because she has this new level of love for herself. She said, I used to have so much control over what we were doing. Christmas would have been an absolute bomb scare, she said. And I'm just like, whatever, I don't care. And I was almost in tears and Marks and Spencer's, I think it was like the Friday before Christmas. She said, I just can't believe it. She's in her late 50s. She was like, I wish I had done this
Mhm.
30 years ago. And I was like, but you know what? You did it now. And that's all
Yeah.
that matters. And that is the power of working with the body, but also helping people understand the way that they were treated in their childhood by their parents ultimately, and sometimes never intentionally, people.
Mhm.
But this was quite intentional. Her mother was obviously reliving her childhood and her traumas and passing them down onto her child. But that is how the mother wound really showed up for me with my clients in the last 12 months. And it's a big piece of work to go through, but so healing, so transformational. And um, I really now can see how there's a lot of work for so many people, so many women to do in this space. So I kind of digressed again. That's what I do. I get excited and I get into storytelling,
No,
but
I'm loving it. And like as a friend, witnessing you and yeah, honoring that message that you received in your own ceremony, I
yeah,
could see watching you that that is like that's it. That is 100% it. You have I know this podcast, guys, but we'll just chat like we're normally chatting. But like you have this capacity to hold space for really big traumatic shit that other people can. And as you said, like for you to be able to mother and hold people in this non-judgmental, 100% unconditional, loving way, like that's it.
yeah. Safety is the key. Like I actually really pride myself on safe spaces, and that's what I creating all my spaces. And I think it's most important online because that is when people can feel a bit out of their depth. Because a lot of people aren't used to, we are used to living in the Zoom culture, but a lot of people aren't. And when in my Heal Yourself Whole program, safety is paramount because when a person feels safe, then they can allow themselves to get vulnerable. And you have to get vulnerable in order to heal,
Hmm.
because it is in your vulnerability that the trauma happened in the first place. And it is in that vulnerability of feeling that emotional pain that you felt way back when it is liberated from your system. So, yeah, safety is a big thing for me in my one-to-one container and in all my things, actually. So, thank you for reflecting that back to me. I appreciate you for that.
No. And then kind of just like a little bit, because I think this is like something that's really important, but just like a little tiny bit, and then we're gonna like raise the 2025 vibes. But, from the studies that you've done with Gabor, like tell us a bit about how that can support people. I mean, I think you've touched on everything, but just succinctly, like pulling it together, the compassionate inquiry piece, because I know that, you know, I have had people ask me about it that I have sent your way.
Mm,
I think it's something that more and more people are becoming aware of as Gabor is on multiple podcasts around the
mm,
world, books, he is as you say, like a leader in
yeah.
his field and really leading the way. looking at like yeah, the kind of like the somatic healing and childhood development and trauma part of things. So from a kind of like little mini, if somebody was to say to you, so what is compassionate inquiry?
Yeah. So, compassionate inquiry is basically a psychotherapeutic approach to childhood developmental trauma. So, it's really looking at how we present ourselves in the world, i.e., in the present moment, which is rooted in the past. And really, the biggest thing for me, which I have found both from my training, but also working with clients, is the body. It's actually the body that we work with in order to heal because talk based therapy keeps you in the mind.
Mm,
But the traumas and the emotional wounds and the unmet needs happened in the body.
yeah.
The body, your emotions are the language of the body. And when you feel anxiety, when you feel hurt, when you feel pain, when you feel sadness, you feel it in your body. You don't
Mhm.
feel it in your head.
Yeah.
And so compassionate inquiry is such a skilled approach using the body to take you to the root cause of your issue. Because what happens is, like I was talking about with my shame example, you'll come with a presenting issue of, let's say, anxiety. And through compassionate inquiry, using the body, we take you into the body and keep you in the body to experience what has shown up for you in the present moment. And what naturally arises is a memory. Memory pops up, and clients will say, "Oh, this is weird, but this memory's just come into my mind."
Yeah.
And they'll tell me the memory, and then we'll go to meet the younger version of them, the inner child who experienced that adverse memory. We'll allow them to feel the pain that that child felt at the root cause. And in doing that, it's like you break the chain of
Yeah.
the shame, the hurt, the pain that happened way back when. And that's really working with the body, the inner child, and also the nervous system, actually. That's a big part of
Mhm.
healing is the nervous system and understanding how the nervous system works because everything's going down in the nervous system. And that's also happening in the body. It's not a thought process, it's a felt process. Safety is a concept that comes from the nervous system or lack of safety. So, really, it's the body and the nervous system. The inner child is like one of the most beautiful healing tools that people can work with. And it's something that people can use for life. Like, I absolutely love connecting with my inner child, but getting into that deepness with that relationship with your inner child is so supportive. So yeah, really it is working with the body and using the body to allow the unconscious material to come forth.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. And yeah, I think that's, just as a relating, the whole talk therapy thing. Obviously I'd experienced and still do occasionally like anxiety around driving
Mm,
after I had my balance thing. And I remember being so excited because I'd eventually got referred for cognitive behavioral therapy. And I remember I had just had a panic attack driving. The woman had phoned me and I'd pulled over at the side of the road and I thought, this is it. This is it. This is going to like be the thing that's going to support me. And the more I got into the cognitive behavioral therapy, I ended up having to pull out and just be like, this is not for
mm,
me because, as you say, it was really focused on the thought
yeah,
and not the feeling. And it was rerunning and grading the
yeah,
thought over and over and over again. I'm like, holy shit. Like,
yeah,
this is just
and
making it worse. Like but
yeah,
then looking at the nervous system and the somatic side of things and working with my nervous system and the self-love and, like healing. You can't heal when your nervous system is triggered. Like
yeah,
that's kind of my like my field, I guess, is that, the vibrational stuff. And yeah, you cannot heal when you're in fight
yeah,
or flight or freeze or fawn, so you need to
yeah.
shift out of that, whereas that was just triggering that day after day after day, you
And
know?
and and even like you're talking about anxiety going to panic attack, that is there's too much energy flooding your system for a perceived threat. So you're anxious and it's getting worse. So your nervous system is going from anxiety, so from fight or flight, way up to panic. And that is when there's too much energy in your system for this perceived threat that
Mhm.
the panic is almost take when you do have that panic attack, it's like it's taking you over the edge and almost into a collapse state. That's when people faint. That's when the panic happens. The nervous system just goes into freeze and it
Mhm.
shuts you off because it perceives it's too much.
Yeah.
And I think that knowing your nervous system and understanding how the nervous system works is one of the most um, beneficial things that people can give themselves, because when you know your nervous system and you know what state you're in and you know how to regulate yourself from that state, because it's different tools to regulate if you're in fight or flight to what it would be if you're in freeze.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that, if you're in freeze and you go doing cold water therapy, that's probably going to make you worse. So you've got to know the tools for the right state that you're in to bring you back to safety.
Mhm.
Also really important.
And it just
Um,
so happens that my beautiful friend Susan has a course called Know Your Nervous System.
yeah, it's
So
it's
we
a big,
will hook that up. Let's hook that up
yeah,
in the show notes for people as well, because that's like a super affordable study at home
it is, yeah,
um,
yeah. It's only
thing. And I think,
£19.
yeah, going into 2025, if that's one thing that you support yourself with, then,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so heading into 2025, positive psychology head on.
Mm-hmm.
What can people do to really support themselves to just, I can feel the energy shift in 2025. I feel like everybody's been almost like in a PT bog trying to get through 2023, 2024, and now it's 2025. And I think everybody is fucking ready for a change and a transformation. And it's like, okay, this is the year. So, what
Mm.
can they do to support that?
Do you know the most simplest thing is cultivating presence, is being present, because when you're present, you can deal with what's showing up.
Mhm.
If, let's say, you're talking about that anxiety and panic attack in the car. So when you're present, your nervous system is in a safe, regulated state, you're engaged, you're doing life, you feel present, you feel engaged. But when you go into um, an unconscious state, which is what most of us operate in most of the time. We're in our head, we're stuck in the past, we're worried about the future. Then you can't deal with what's shown up for you. You can't deal with the anxiety or the panic attack because you're so up in your head going, oh my God, what's happening? I can't deal with this. That's happening again. I'm never going to be able to feel better.
Mhm.
But when you've been cultivating and working on presence,
And I love how you say this is the simplest thing, but it's not the easiest, right?
no, no, it's not. It's not. But it's free and it's doable, right?
Absolutely.
But when you've been doing the work on cultivating presence, and this is my experience because I couldn't even stay in a conversation 20 years ago,
Mhm.
15 years ago. I've worked so hard for the last 15, 20 years on cultivating presence. And now I am present for a job. This is my job, is to listen intently and be present. So I have completely changed my life through cultivating presence. I gave you that example last week of where I noticed in that group chat that the comment that I made started making me feel embarrassed.
Mhm.
Now, for most people, that you would stay stuck in that, would stay stuck in the story. Oh my God, I'm stupid. Why did I say that? They're all going to think I'm an idiot. They're all going to be judging me. I would have stayed in that story years ago. Whereas because I've been cultivating my own present moment awareness to what my experience is, I was able to notice, I was able to go to my journal and write it all out. I was able to go into my body and ask my body questions. Then this memory popped up, then the shame arrived, and I was there present with it all. And once I did that, it was gone.
Mhm.
And that is owning your experience, but you have to be present to what is showing up
Mhm.
in your experience in order to be able to navigate it, to make a different choice.
Mhm.
So for me, presence is the key, cultivating that awareness. And meditation is the thing that has changed my life. And it took me a long, long time, a real long time, but I was persistent. There would be months where I didn't do it. There'd be weeks where I would only show up once a week, but I was determined to do it, and it has paid off in ways I can't even describe. So meditation is the single biggest thing that's really helped me change my life.
Mhm.
And that's why you and I created Soul Sanctuary, because it's the tools that we stand by, and meditation is the thing.
Yeah.
And like that, this it is one of the reasons why Soul Sanctuary was created, because I wished I'd had a space where I could have come and meditated with people, because that would have held me accountable. It would have made me show up. It would have felt less hard.
Mhm.
And, it has taken me, as I say, 15, 20 years to actually get to this point where I can sit in meditation for an hour,
Mhm.
where I want to do it every day. But I had to keep showing up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like cultivate getting present, know
Yeah.
what gets you present. You can write a list of things that make you present. When you notice that you're in your head, go do something that takes you out of your head.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
would be
absolutely.
what would be your
And
thing?
yeah, yeah. And I think, t like touching on Soul Sanctuary there, Susan has mentioned this, like cultivating awareness, cultivating presence. And this ultimately is and are the tools and techniques within Soul Sanctuary. So we every day we practice gratitude, which is another great positive psychology tool to really help shift and raise your vibe, but also to cultivate presence, because gratitude ultimately
Yeah.
is a mindfulness practice, bringing us into the present moment for what we already have, which is deeply, deeply, powerful. The meditation side of things, the more we meditate and the more quiet space we gift ourselves, the more we can actually hear what's going on. We can step out of that autopilot. And then in the
Yeah.
magical mornings, as well as that, we do our intention setting. So it's showing up again with awareness. Okay, this is how I want my day to go. This is how I want to be showing up in the world, not based on yesterday, what happened yesterday, like in this present moment, how do
Yeah.
I want to be showing up? How do I want to feel? And that's where that transformation and the consistency of the practice, I've taught meditation for about a decade. And I've had some clients along the way I would call like crisis meditators. So they'll come for however many weeks, think, oh my God, I actually feel like really good. Like life is good. And
Yeah.
then they'll go away and then they don't practice and then they come back and they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And this is the thing. It's about creating lifestyle tools.
Yep.
It's not
Absolutely.
about just a quick fix. There's no such thing as a quick fix,
No, that
right?
this is a lifestyle choice, but it has taken me a long time to make it a lifestyle choice. At first, it was hard work, and at first, and then it was infuriating. It was, oh, I'm giving up. What's the point? This isn't working for me. And now it is a lifestyle choice. I love it, and it has made such an impact. And I think here's the thing about meditation, because people think it's that 15-minute practice, but what it actually is the more you cultivate and sit with that 15-minute practice, the more you notice when you're sitting watching the TV at night and you're in that negative thought spiral about a stupid comment you made on WhatsApp, you go, right, stop.
Mhm.
Stop. You're able to separate yourself from your thoughts because you've cultivated that awareness through your morning practice. And I think that's a key thing, because people think it is just the morning practice. It's not. That morning practice is helping you in those moments in your day where you actually catch yourself and
Yeah.
you come back to presence and you're able to say, no, I'm no longer having these thoughts because I'm not available for it.
Mhm. Amazing. Amazing. So yeah, our Soul Sanctuary doors are open until the 12th. And yeah, we've got so much fun stuff lined up this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got the deep transformational work, we have your daily practices, we have challenges, we have fun little card reading sessions, Reiki planned, all sorts of good stuff in there. And then of course, obviously, there's like the whole back catalogue of all the
Yeah.
incredible themes that we've covered and in previous months and stuff as well. So do check out the link below because that's only open till the 12th. And yeah, come join us for the manifestation challenge as well, because that will be amazing.
Yay.
So obviously this is the Be Free podcast because freedom is one of my core values, and I would love to know what makes you feel free.
I think I'm just going to repeat what I've just said, but being present because I have really struggled with my busy, overactive mind for a lifetime. And when I'm present, when I'm not in my head, I am free.
Hmm.
Um,
Perfect.
so it is as simple as that for me, actually, because I know that I can go into downward spirals.
Hmm.
But I have a list of 10 things on my phone that when I'm in that, I take it out and I go, okay, I can manage a bath right now. And a bath brings me back to being present,
Yeah,
brings me joy. Or I go for a walk to my favorite beach. So freedom for me is being in the now, the only moment that exists.
beautiful, beautiful. Eckhart Tolle would be proud of you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so what plans do you have for 2025 for yourself, for your own little healing path, or is there any areas of life that you're focusing on, or
Yeah. Yeah. So I am 50 in February.
Woo!
I know, which I
Next
can't.
month?
Yes, I can't get my head around it. It's like insane because that would have been old. It still feels old to me, but so I am determined that I am going to be in the shape of my life in my 50th year. So that means like my biggest struggle right now is eating, overeating, eating sugar. I've managed to get an exercise routine down. So I've joined CrossFit and I've been going to that twice a week for the last 3 months. And that feels good. I've now got that routine in. I've got yoga once a week. So I've got my exercise back on track, but the eating is out of control. So I'm going to be working really hard on trying to get to the root of what this eating issue is because it has been a bit of a story and a pattern around my life. Like I was thinking, I'm almost at the heaviest I've ever been. And the last time I was this heavy was when I was approaching 30. And I'm like, okay, why do I go? I've gone up and down in my weight my whole life. I've been thin, I've been overweight, been thin, been overweight. And so I really want to nip it in the bud this year. And I want to take control of my health because I've given up alcohol. I'm back in my exercise. Once I get this eating under wraps,
Yeah,
then I will be in the shape of my life. So yeah, 2 stone to lose. It's a lot, but I'm in for it. I'm here for it.
yeah, amazing,
But it's
amazing.
not going to be easy.
No. Well, let's reframe that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for catching me
Let's
there.
reframe that belief.
It is going to be there's my belief right there. Losing weight is hard. Like there, I've just caught it. Losing weight is hard. Bullshit, isn't it? Because it's not. It's just saying no to the cake. It's as simple as that.
Mhm,
And there's where it comes back to presence, isn't it? If
mhm.
you're present to the biscuit that you've had and then the second biscuit you've had and say, no, this is not in alignment with where I'm going, but
Yeah.
I'm quite an unconscious eater. So
Mhm.
there's that's my big piece of work this year for sure.
Woo, exciting, exciting. Okay, so for anybody that's been listening and wants to connect with you, we will put links to your Heal Yourself Whole program, to Soul Sanctuary, to Know Your Nervous System. Is there anything else you want to share? Where can people find you? All that jazz before we jump off.
I guess the key thing to share is I hope that like the story of my client gave people hope. The people who come into my world don't have a clue that their past is what is the problem. And so if you're struggling with how you're feeling, with your thoughts, your feelings, and your self-worth beliefs about yourself, go and get help. Do the work because it will transform your life. You don't have to feel this way. There is another way. This isn't just the way it needs to be. Like, I can't express enough how this is not your lot. You can change and you can heal and you can grow and you can have a life transforming experience if you do the work.
Amazing.
That is my mission. That is my message to everybody. Like I've done it for myself. I've seen it time and time again with people who've come to me to work with me and just been in a really dark place. And clients are always sending me messages, sharing things that have changed and transformed. Even I had somebody message me who worked with me 2 years ago. My very first client still gets in touch and tells me things.
Mhm.
And that is the power of doing this work.
Yeah, amazing.
You know it. I know it.
Oh, well, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me,
And
Suze.
yeah, I appreciate you. And yeah, here's to an incredible 2025 for everybody.
Yeah, and I think just to finish off, if anybody does want to jump, my Heal Yourself Whole program starts the 29th of January, and it is a 12-week transformative step-by-step process which will take you through all the things, all the steps, give you all the knowledge for how to heal your past. We do it in community, which is the most healing and beneficial places to be, isn't it? Doing it in a supportive
Absolutely.
community. And that is because it does heal some of that old wounding, being seen by others, being witnessed, being validated by people who only want the same for you, and also creating that safe space. A safe space surrounded by other people is food for your soul, and that is where you can really help yourself heal. So, if anybody wants to come in and jump into that, then I'm happy to support.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, go
Thank
check
you.
out all those links. Give Susan a follow as well. She shares some incredible tools, insights, inspiration on her Instagram. And then of course, yeah, so you're on a timeline for Soul Sanctuary, timeline for Heal Yourself Whole. Get in there. Don't wait. Like, just take the freaking leap. Like Susan's client, just take that step, like that
Yeah,
imaginary, like little step forward this year, whatever that may look like for you. You have freaking nothing to lose and so much to gain. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend. I will look forward to connecting with you soon. And thank you everybody for listening here. Please do like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good things. It makes such a difference. I'd really, really appreciate that. And if you feel this episode might resonate with a friend or a loved one, send it their way.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Thanks, Suze.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you soon.
Bye
Bye.
bye.